All right, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we got the new 2025 Motion robotic lawnmower versions. We got the Luba 2X. This thing is great for that rough terrain, those big yards. We got the new Luba Mini model. Now this little mini model is the same four-wheel drive as the Luba 2, but it's just in a more compact size, and this thing is awesome. We also have the Yuka Mini, a smaller little brother of the larger, more popular Yuka model, and I'll tell you what, this thing's gonna be cool too. Let's get started. In today's video, we're gonna be covering the capabilities of each of these robots, obstacle avoidance and safety, which one of these robots is best suited for you, and tips that I've learned over the last few years of owning a robotic lawnmower that'll help you have the most success with your lawn. For those of you that are new to the robotic lawnmower scene, they're not all created equal, and I want to share with you what you can expect from a really good robotic lawnmower. First, we would make a GPS map of our area. The robot will leave its charging station and head out. It'll do an automated GPS cutting. It looks really good when it's done too. It'll cut even in a day or the night. It'll put itself away when it's done, and it'll give you that golf course looking grass with little to no effort, and that's what we're all about. All three of these robots operate on the same general app, the same general platform, and have a lot of similarities. So to try to condense this video down, everything that's similar with the robots, we're gonna cover right now. Two major components to the robots. One is the charging station, and the other is the RTK unit. Now the charging station's pretty straightforward. We'll find a good spot for it. It screws right to the ground. We plug it in, load the robot up to get it charging, and we're done with that. Next is the RTK unit. The RTK unit should be mounted somewhere that has good view of the sky. This is where we're gonna get all the GPS signal to the RTK unit. It's gonna send it down to the robot and give us that enhanced accuracy that's gonna allow us to drive along walls, around perimeters, and really get some good cutting action, even when the mower is nowhere near the RTK. You could also mount the RTK on a pole, but that's my least desirable. If someone knocked it down, it's going to mess your mapping up. So I'm a big fan of putting it on to a fixed location like the corner of your garage or your house. But if you're not interested in doing that, or there's nowhere with a clear view of the sky, we can use it with the pole, and it works really good. I've done lots of testing with the pole. I haven't had any problems, but you have to consider if the RTK gets knocked over, the pole gets knocked down, it's going to mess with that accuracy that we talked about. So good, but not my favorite. A newer feature to both these robots and the app is auto mapping. I found that it worked pretty good. It started finding its way around the property nicely. It did get hung up on the tree between the wall there, and I had to redirect the robot, and it made a little mess on the mapping, but then as it went around and finished out the map, it deleted it all by itself, and it produced a pretty darn good map that worked nice. So my thought on the auto mapping, it works pretty good, but follow it around, and if it needs a little help, kind of guide it around, and it'll do a pretty darn good map, in which we can kind of edit the details later if we wanted to. Real good start though. Now let's talk about the manual mapping. That's where we actually within the app can control the robot around the perimeter of the yard to make the map exactly how we want it. This is going to allow us to control the margins away from obstacles and basically build it exactly like we want. I prefer this method. One thing to consider when you're manual mapping, make sure you overlap halfway along pavers and sidewalks so that there's no missed grass. But all in all, the manual mapping, in my opinion, gives me the best opportunity to get the robot functioning the best within the space. But let's take a look at the two maps, auto versus manual, and you can see here that the auto actually did a better job at utilizing way back in all the nooks and crannies, but I just find overall manual mapping works best for me. Within the app, you can also program an unlimited amount of cut angles. You can make the robot go any direction you want, and it's going to just improve the cut quality, meaning that it's going to be very consistent all throughout the yard, and it also can develop some neat patterns depending on how you want your yard to look. These mowers also have manual mowing, which is neat. You can inside the app control it like a remote control lawnmower and really access those areas that are hard to get during the automated cut cycles, and it's really fun too. Rain detection is important. We don't want these mowers driving around in the rain just clogging up and getting all messy and tearing the yard up, so they have a rain detector on the top. Once it gets wet, it returns to the charging station, puts itself away until it dries up, and then it'll go back out and resume cutting again. So now something that's really important, our safety. Are these robots safe to be riding around in the yard cutting grass unattended? I would say absolutely yes. Now we do have to use some common sense. These are high-powered power tools with razor-sharp blades cutting grass. But when you lift the robot up, you'll see that the motor shuts down almost instantaneously, rendering it relatively safe. Now there are razor blades on there. I want you to know that you have to handle those with care, with gloves on, or just be really careful. Another thing is that stop button on the back. Press the stop button, it renders it inoperable right there instantaneously in the event that you want to stop it like right now. Another cool feature is the dual camera binocular vision system. This is kind of connected to its AI. It can detect people, objects, pets, other things like that, and it can plan a route around them based on what it's seeing in the camera. And it can do this in the daytime, which you can see it going around me here. Also, it'll do it during the night, which is kind of neat because I like to run the robot late at night. That's really cool. But all in all, it's really safe to run these. Before I start breaking the robots down individually, I wanted to show some shots so you could see these side by side, so you could see the size difference and just get a general idea of what we're working with here. First up, we got the Yuka Mini. I got the 800 series version. They run from about $8.99 all the way to $11.99, and you can pause it here to see these statistics if you want to read more about them. It'll show up protected in some good high quality packaging. Very little easy setup on this one. This is something new this year, a replaceable battery. Yuka Mini is a two-wheel drive version with 2 caster wheels up front. These things work amazing when it comes to spinning in place and doing that 0-degree turn without damaging the grass at all, kind of like a shopping cart. At two-wheel drive, you get a max slope of 24 degrees. I measured it with my phone, you can't see it here, but it was about 17 degrees. We tried on the little steeper hump here. It gets quite a bit steeper here and its software shuts off, and that was about 30-degree incline there that shut it down. Yuka Mini has one 5-blade cutting disc with a surface cutting area of 7.5 inches. In comparison to the Yuka full-size model with 2 cutting discs, you can see here that it takes about twice as many passes to get the same amount of work done. The cutting disc is approximately 5 inches from the edge of the robot. This leaves about a 7-inch margin between the wall or the fence and the actual cutting disc. You can see the difference here where the Yuka Mini cut a little wider versus the Luba 2 that cut really close to the wall. Either way, you're going to have to do a small amount of weed whacking right along the borders and edges. Just expect that. Cut height is adjusted with a manual knob, and the Yuka Mini comes in 2 different versions, a short grass and a high grass version, so just make sure you get the right one for your grass. Manual mowing works great on this little machine. It helps you get up in close in those little areas that might have been missed during the automated cutting. You can also catch those areas next to the walls where it might have left a little wider margin than you wanted. Obstacle avoidance, one of my favorite tests. Yuka Mini has a vision system with a headlight, 2 cameras, so it does a good job. I sped this up 4 times so you can see it going around these different obstacles just to get a general idea how this machine works. The boot, just no problem at all, it just goes around it. The bucket, same thing, nice conservative margin around it. Just continues cutting, no problem whatsoever. And me, easily sees me, goes around. Ooh, and what's this? Some dog poop. You know what? It tried to go around it, but just went right over top of it. So for you dog lovers, it's not going to get that poop picked up. This machine's really quiet. Let's hear it drive by. I'm about 4 feet away. That leads right to, what is the headlight for? It's great because at that quiet, I can run it in the middle of the night. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother the neighbors. You can barely hear it if you're more than probably 10 feet away. Yuka Mini can have up to 10 zones depending on the model you buy, and that's just separate GPS cutting maps that you can operate the machine within. Now let's have a look at the Luba 2X. Checking in at about $2,499 all the way to $4,399. And here's the stats if you want to take a peek at them. This is the 3rd generation based off of Luba 1, the popular Luba 2, and now the Luba 2X, which has some noticeable differences here. And looking side by side, you can clearly see that there's been upgrades made along the way. The cutting disc system is completely different, and I'll put a list here of all the main differences between Luba X and Luba 2 if you want to have a look. And there's that standard high quality packaging. Luba 2 will require some assembly just to put the camera system on. It's easy. Plug in 3 plugs, tighten it down, and boom, you're ready to go. Easily done. The front bumper just has a plug, put it in place, screw it down, and that's done also. And I like the way this year's model looks with the new color scheme. And this is where this one shines. The all-wheel drive max slope is 38 degrees, and it measures at about 36 here on this hill. And let's see this thing in action. Over the rocks, super easy. That four-wheel drive is just really awesome if you need it. If your yard is hilly, rough terrain, it's no brainer with this machine. And coming down the hill, just as easy. And the four-wheel drive version really shines on those off-camber hills where it just needs all those wheels digging and biting to stay up there on line that it's trying to cut. This would just be unachievable with almost any other robot I've ever seen. And with it being four-wheel drive, we need these Omni-turn wheels. They're brilliant. They slide across the ground effortlessly along the grass without any ripping, no shredding. It just makes the four-wheel drive turning capability so much better. And the suspension on this robot is awesome. It's got a good amount of travel to keep those wheels biting in. 2 6-blade cutting discs, giving you a 15.7-inch cutting surface. The edge cut performance on the Luba 2 is really good at about 2 inches from the edge of the mower. This is going to get you about 3.5 inches from the border and just really minimize that amount of cut work. Here's another quick look at the difference between the Luba 2 and the Mini versions. You're not going to get away from doing a tiny bit of weed whacking along those edges. Cut height is adjusted within the app on this model. And again, 2 versions, short and high. Make sure you get the right one. Manual mowing is very useful, and it's also super fun with this four-wheel drive model. You can get those really tough to reach areas that are super hilly, rough terrain, and it's like driving a remote control car. It's actually pretty fun. Obstacle avoidance, here we go again. Luba 2X uses a vision system with those 2 cameras and also a headlight. It has ultrasonic sensors to help with the depth perception and a multi-directional bumper system. And the bucket is no match. It easily goes around with a nice conservative margin. Easily going around the boot also, and it picks the direction it's going to be the closest distance to get back to its original routing. And the ball gets a little closer, but still comfortably goes around it. And the dog poop. Here we go again. Luba 2 just does not care about the dog poop at all. The headlight on this unit is super bright and lights up the area nicely out in front of it, giving it the ability to have that great obstacle avoidance even at night. Super quiet machine when it's running. I'm about 3 feet away here. Let's hear it drive by. Once the novelty of watching the machine drive around cutting your grass wears off, you're probably going to want to do most of your cutting at night. It's that quiet. These larger machines work great on small yards, but they're really made to do much bigger acreage and property. Because of that, they can do up to 60 different zones. Now we got the Luba Mini checking in from $1,499 up to $1,899. And here's the stats if you want them. The Luba Mini has most of the capabilities of the Luba 2, but just in a much smaller package. The great same high quality packaging, easy to set up, the only thing we have to do is put the camera on. Luba Mini also has a replaceable battery. This all-wheel drive version gives it great climbing ability at 38 degrees, and I measured the slope at 36, and you'll see here that it climbs this with a breeze, no problem at all. And what goes up must come down, and there's no problem coming down either. Those omnidirectional zero-turn wheels give it the ability to turn in place without shredding your lawn to bits. That's really helpful for those of you that have really nice turf grass. I haven't noticed any damage to my grass from the turning with these wheels. The suspension on this mower is pretty darn impressive. It's got some darn good travel built into it, and you can see it moving freely here, and that just makes it, when you're going up and over these rocks, the wheels are just in constant contact with the ground, giving it the best traction possible. One 6-blade cutting disc, giving it a 7.9-inch cutting surface. Edge cut performance is giving you about the same as the Yuka Mini at about 5 inches. That puts the cutting edge about 7 inches away from any obstacle. And here's another quick look at the difference between the Luba 2 and the Mini versions. And look, let's not go selling that weed eater just yet. You might need it. Cut height is adjusted within the app, just like on the larger Luba 2, and we do have the 2 versions, the high and the short. Make sure you get the right version for the type of grass that you have. Manual mowing is unbelievable with this 4-wheel drive unit. Super easy to use, rough, gnarly terrain, no problem, and very fun too. Obstacle avoidance, here we go. This unit uses the vision system with a headlight. Here's what it looks like when you're looking through the camera on the vision system in the first person view. It works great at night too. It uses a bumper to detect objects as well. And here we go, up to the bucket, around the bucket. Nice and close margin here, minimizing the amount of missed grass. That's nice. To the boot, pretty close, that's good. And headed on around. To the ball, ooh, it gave the ball a little kiss. And went around the ball. And then most important, the human detection is just great. Went around me, no problem whatsoever. Ultra quiet, I'm literally 2 inches away. Let's hear it go by. And with the built-in headlight, it's going to make running this robot at night just awesome. Super quiet. No one will even know it's out there unless they see the headlight. And it's got that same good obstacle detection at night. Goes around it with ease and just keeps on cutting up and down. Waking up to that yard looking absolutely amazing. Luba Mini's perfect for that small to medium yard, about 16,000 feet or smaller. It can cut up to 15 zones. Now I want to share some tips that I've learned over the last few years to help you be successful a lot faster with your robot. If you have any GPS location problems whatsoever, check your charger location and most importantly your RTK location. Your RTK has to have a 360-degree view of the sky in order to function at the highest level. If your robot is constantly bumping the walls, making course corrections as it makes its way around the perimeter map, adjust your map with a conservative buffer so that it can freely go around the entire perimeter with no problem. Supervise the robot until you're confident that there's no hiccups in the mapping and you're going to get consistent results. Be prepared to weed whack those edges. This mower is not designed to weed whack edges and under fences and all that stuff, so don't even think it's going to do that, and you'll be a lot happier. When making your map, try to overlap sidewalks and pavers to minimize any uncut grass. Pre-cut that extremely tall grass to get it down within the cut limits of the mower before you start automating your yard process. This is a lawn maintenance tool and it's not designed to cut down out of control tall grass. After running your robot, are you noticing a few small missed cut areas? Mix up the cutting pattern in different directions to make sure that you get a nice consistent cut pattern throughout the entire yard. Now everybody wants the yard cut really fast, but since we're not doing the work, slow the cut speed down and it'll give you a much finer cut. Schedule your cut times around your sprinkler times. The sprinklers come on, they spray the robot. It's going to send the robot back to the charging station thinking it's raining. Not only that, but it's going to cut terrible if the grass is just absolutely soaked. When it comes time to update things, make sure you start with the app, then update the robot inside the app, then update the RTK if needed. With all 3 of these updated, things should work great. Always protect your robot with a high-quality spray sealant from the automotive industry. Spray it on, wipe it off, and you're going to get that hydrophobic ability that just makes water and dirt just bead right off. Be real careful how you choose to clean your machine. Do not use a pressure washer. Spray on a good high-quality rinseless wash, and wipe it off, and the robot will come super clean and turns out nice every single time. Every once in a while, you're going to have to change the blades on your machine when they get dull. It's really easy. I use a screw gun here, but be careful how you choose to put them on and off so that you don't strip threads or cause any damage. Most of all, be realistic with the expectations that you expect from this machine. It's not going to trim bushes, weed whack under fences. It's not going to do dump runs. You just have to understand what it is and how it's going to help you make your life better. All right, after all that, what's my thoughts? Yuka Mini, great for reasonably small yards. If we had a lot of acreage, this would not be the tool for you. Your yard should be reasonably flat. Some sloping is okay, but if you have gnarly rough hills and terrain, no go on that. Those caster wheels are designed to be on reasonably flat terrain and do nice smooth turning in place without tearing up the grass. That's a plus. All in all, it comes in at a way better cost point, and it uses all the cool technology that the more expensive models do with the GPS mapping and the ability to go any direction you want and to fully control the robot. So Yuka Mini is great in that way. Now let's talk about the Luba 2X. Large properties, big acreage, several acres. It's going to just go constantly back and forth and just keep the grass cut amazing. Great GPS technology, awesome cutting, everything about it. It can be hilly, it can be rough. It's just going to do a good job overall. It's going to come in at the highest price point here, but it's able to do the most stuff. So all in all, that's going to be a great robot, large properties. Let's talk about Luba Mini. All the great features of the Luba 2X, but it comes in at a much lower cost point, and it's designed for a smaller property. That's really the only thing that really separates the difference between the bigger one and the little one. And all in all, that is a very neat tool. I think it's perfect for my property, actually. And anything less than 16,000 feet, you're going to be really happy. These robots are the most robust in the business. I've looked at almost every model out there. And before I even say this, I know people are fans of different models. Get what works for you. Get what makes you happy. But I'm telling you, I've had this product line since the day they put the first one out, and they've been awesome for me. My yard looks like a golf course, and I'm really happy with it. And all of them... Oh, one of them's turning off right there. All of them worked really well for me. And the few problems that I did have over the years was when I was trying to update it, and I didn't realize how important it was to update the machine, the app, and in some cases the RTK, so that they're all agreeing on the same software. And technical support was really helpful with that. So all in all, these robots, man, they're my favorite out there. I've seen most, if not all of them. Tell me what you think down in the comments. I appreciate you watching to the end. One last thing, over on my website, I'm developing a page about robotic lawnmowers that's going to go way deeper into the philosophy of how to set them up and the different components for those of you that want to geek out on that sort of thing. I'm working on that to try to help answer some of the commonly asked questions. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Yeah!